Should we bring Pedro on stage?
We should absolutely bring Pedro on stage. And what we have is something called content releases. And some of you might know about like scheduling, right? You can schedule the publishing of a document, which is nice. But again, we have Black Friday coming up next week. It's not just one document, it can be up to like thousands of documents potentially. And it sucks to kind of go into each one and schedule it for publishing, and then you can't do anything with it. It's stuck, you have to wait for it to publish, and like it's a whole thing. And content releases is trying to solve this problem. Like you know that something's going to change, you know when, you want to kind of stage it, you want to be able to change that date for all of the documents at once, but you also don't want to block ongoing work on those documents. So that's a pretty gnarly problem. But it seems like we solved it. And Pedro, I know you're going to show us how content releases work, and
Yeah.
then we can talk a little bit about like the backside of it, like how did we go about this. So yeah,
I,
the floor is yours, and we're gonna
yes.
appear when time is starting to ebb out. Right?
Cool. Thanks. Uh, let's be sure to come back to that kind of like staging some content and then being sure that it will go out when you want it. So I will do the demo for this. We are on a studio that you are going to notice if you are looking hard enough that we have a new button right here on the top right. This is for releases. What you have here is the option to change the perspective that is going to be applied to the studio and which release you are seeing. I'm going to come back to this in a second, but I want to show you the studio as you already know it. So in this case, I'm on a products. We have been working, we already have the Black Friday release ready, so we are working on the Christmas release. And you can see that we have some changes in here, and this has changed. Previously, it showed you only when we have drafts, but now we are also pulling the documents that belong to our release. So if I click on this document, you can see that now we are changing how the documents inside the structure look. You are not only going to have the option to see the draft and the publish. We before releases, we only had two options for one document. It was either draft or publish, and it was always on that stage. Like you do the edits on the draft document, then you publish the draft document, and it goes like you edit again, you edit on the draft, you publish, and that's always the way to handle documents, unless it's a live edit document, which you were always editing on the publish. In this case, we need to show you that you have versions of that document, and we are showing them in a different way. So I'm gonna do a simple change in here, and I'm gonna update this document in the draft. So I'm gonna change the title because this title shows on the previews that we are seeing, but then I want to see the publish. So what does this document has on the publish? I just click here and it goes back to the publish. We see a publish document, but also you may notice that we have updated the navbar, and that is taking a new color that is representing that we are on the publish perspective, and we have also updated the list. This will work for every place that you are seeing in the studio, every reference. If you do it in the search, if you do it inside the document, if you have a reference to this document from another document, and you set the publish perspective, it will show you the value that the document has on publish. The same will work for the versions as well. So I don't want to jump into the versions yet, but let's start with the releases. So what is the releases? It's going to be a new screen that you have on your studio, and you can start here and you can create a new release. I noticed on my page that I have a fix that I need to do. So you can create a new release. To create it, you have three types of releases. There's ASAP. Those are releases, kind of type of fixes that you need to go right away out. It can be kind of a draft, but you want to join multiple changes on one go. So you create a release, you edit the documents, you see your changes on presentation, and then you publish it. But so let's go in this one. I'm going to create a type of fix release in this case. From here, I know that I have a change that I want to introduce on the homepage. So I can add the documents from here, or I can go strictly to structure and add the documents. So now we have added a document to this release. I can continue adding other documents if I want, but in this case, I want to get this fixed because I need to remove it before Black Friday, and I forgot this. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna say, this is changed. I have removed this text, and now I can go to presentation and see how the things look. Let's go back to presentation. This is one of the things that Cody was mentioning that we are changing. Given the primitives that we have in presentation, we can build on top of that very easily. So now, instead of having to click here to see the publisher of the draft, you have the option that has been moved up here. So all the studio will work in this perspective for you. So you can see that now I have this that I need to remove it, but I'm removing it on the Black Friday type of fix. So in this type of fix, it is removed. I can see multiple changes. I'm not changing it on the draft. I'm changing it on the release. And I can go later and publish the release. I'm not going to do that just yet because I'm actually working on the Christmas sale. So I want to see the documents that I have on the Christmas sale. I selected the Christmas sale, and you can see that I have multiple documents that are gonna go out. Actually, I'm adding two products to the Christmas sale. So you can see this from here, or you can also go to structure. And in structure, you're gonna see that we are showing two documents. These two will only show if you apply the Christmas sale perspective. I remove this, I'm seeing the drafts. No one that is working on the draft knows about this, but when you go to the Christmas sale release, you're gonna see your Christmas sweater and Christmas cup. But it is not only here, and this is where it gets nice. You're gonna see this also in presentation. And actually, you don't have to change anything in presentation. We just built on top of the React loaders and all the loaders that are included in presentation. So we built on top of that. And the only thing that we are changing, I want to show you that, is how we query the data. So if I go back here, I'm seeing the draft mode. You can see that we are using the perspective. This param will actually change in the future, but it hasn't been implemented, that change yet. So we are querying here for the bundle perspective drafts. But now if I go to a Christmas sale, you're gonna see that I'm querying for the perspective that it includes the ID of the Christmas sale, the ID of the type of fix, and the ID of the draft. Why we have more than one ID? Because if you have been paying attention, in this Christmas sale, we also have the changes from the type of fix. So this allows you to stack changes that are going to be released. Because when I'm working on the Christmas sale, I know that this will go out first. So I want to see the changes that are also applying at this point. If I want, I can hide it because I want to focus only on the Christmas sale. So I get this, that should be removed. I'm doing this just for our presentation, but it can be multiple documents that you have on a page, and there can be multiple releases at the same time that you're going to be scheduling, and you want some changes to go out sooner than others, so you schedule those, or you just add them here, and you can decide which documents you want to see when you're working on this. So I'm going to go to the type of fix because I need this to go out as soon as possible. So I'm here. How do we publish this? Just click on the publish button, and now my documents are published. If I go back to structure, sorry for this. There's something that we still need to fix. This is still on a beta, but you can see that we have updated the published document, but the draft hasn't changed. This was removed from the publish. The draft is still as it was. If I go to the Christmas sale at this time, what I want to do is I want to come here, see all the documents. I have already seen in presentation that everything looks in the way that I want. So I want to schedule this for publishing. There's something that cannot mention, like staging changes. There's one thing when you stage a change in a draft and you schedule it for it to be published. You go into the draft, you do the changes, you schedule it, but then you can continue working on the draft, or maybe you need something to go right away before. So now you need to revert your changes to what it was on the publish those in that type of fix of something, and then schedule it again. With this, you can have multiple versions, so you don't need to do that. But also, once something is ready to go and you're happy with it and you schedule it, it will be blocked and you cannot change it anymore. So In this case, it's taking the date that I have assigned when I created it, but I can also change it. And I can say, okay, this is going out on Sunday. And I click schedule for publishing. Now this release is scheduled and you cannot change it anymore. You cannot add new documents. You can't change the documents that belong to the release. You can see that this is scheduled for publishing. So there's nothing I can do. Everything is blocked for editing. The only thing that I can do is I can go back to presentation and I can see the changes applying there once more to confirm that I'm happy with everything. I'm happy with it because we have the new two products going out, the Christmas cup and the Christmas sweater. Yeah, this is how the studio will look and how things will work. It's very simple from the consumer side because you only need to change one query that if you are using presentation and the loaders, we are changing that for you. But on the studio side and the way to develop this, we had a couple of challenges. The first challenge that we found is that we now have multiple IDs for the same document. So before all of these, we only had the drafts and the published documents. That was a mental model that was kind of easy because you were doing changes to the draft, you click publish, that's the published document, it goes to your site. You are always querying your site from the published document, but now you can have multiple versions of the document. There's no limit here. Like I have two versions in here. I want one that is gonna go out on winter, the other is for the Christmas. I can be changing titles, I can be changing hundreds of documents at the same time, working on a huge release. And I want to be able to see all those changes, but I also want the studio to show me those changes while I'm working on that. So we needed to find a way to say, okay, this is a document that for simplification purposes, I'm giving it an ID of foo. So we have the draft and we have the publish, but also we have the versions IDs for this. A version ID will always start with the word versions, and then it will be the indicator of the release ID. This is, in this case, the winter, just for simplification, and the Christmas. This is going to be actually a random ID, but just so you have the idea. How do we query all of this? We're introducing a new perspective, the perspective layer. We currently have the publish, raw, and preview drafts that you probably know. But with the layer, you can provide a list of releases. So let's say for a minute that we have these documents in our dataset, a very small dataset, but we have 3 documents that are published. We have 2 in each of the versions. You can see that this document is only in the version, this is in 2 versions, and it isn't published yet. So let's say I want to query for the publish, I just apply perspective publish, and it will give me these documents. I want the winter release. Now I say layer winter, it gives me this. And this is where it gets really powerful. And this is very hard to build if you have to do it on your own. Luckily, we have the content lake to handle that for us. And they have been thinking a lot on this. And we have a very easy way to express this from the perspective side. The only thing that you need to do is you say, I want the Christmas and I want the winter. And if a document exists in this first release, don't include me the document if it exists on the second. So you can see that we are getting the versions because this is only in here. We are getting the Christmas, even though there's a winter document for this, it will give me the Christmas because that was first. It will give me this one that is only on the publish, and it will give me this new document that we are adding. All of that is handled by Content Lake. We just need to provide the correct perspective. So at most, it's going to be a small change on the way that you query your data. And you get the benefits that I didn't show it. But let's say something changing here and you have scheduled all your changes, but you need that to go out one day earlier. You unschedule. We validate everything before scheduling for changes and before clicking the publish button. We are validating all these documents with your local schemas. And we are also validating all the references on Content Lake, so we know that this publish won't go wrong. So I change the date and I click schedule for publishing. I select the new date and all your documents, your 100 documents that you had previously to go one by one. Now they are all scheduled for you, and you don't need to worry anymore about that.
This is
So
great.
Yeah. I have two questions. One, how do I get that Christmas mug? That's a great mug. But number
AI.
two, they were saying, I forgot who was saying it, maybe Knut or Cody earlier today or earlier in the event. Sanity engineers are doing like a lot of like this hard work in the background, and it's like making it easy for the Sanity like consumers and like the developers and the content editors that are using the platform. What do you think was like the most challenging engineering aspect of building this? Because there's a lot going on behind the scenes that is like, oh, it just works for the people using Sanity. But I know there was like a lot that went into it, so it was like the hardest part.
There's a lot. I'm a I'm working in the front end, so I can speak more for that. But I know that for Content Lake, it's a huge change. They have been working on this for I don't know 6 or more months at this point. But also there was a lot of whiteboarding and defining how this will work, because it's not easy when you need to think on stacking and on pool of documents. That now some documents are going to be part of one release, and you need to query that one, but you also want from the other release, because they need to stack all together to bring you the final site. That is the site that you're going to be seeing in 1 month or 2 months. If you want, you can go to 6 months and you will have all your releases. So there's a lot of work that happened there to just bring us the simplification of just give me the layer and we are going to take care of that. That is crazy for me when I am thinking it, because I actually implemented this with Sanity before joining Sanity, and it was an awful thing to do at the query level. So we are handling that for you, and you don't need to worry.
And like just to be
On
clear, like Perspectives lets you run the same grok query but
exactly,
get different
yeah,
documents based
that,
on this stuff. So it's kind of like another layer that's kind of like, yeah, those
yeah,
grok queries that you wrote were probably pretty wild, right?
yeah. I
Yeah,
absolutely, because I needed to check for the IDs and if one existed or not to bring me the other. But when you start nesting things, it's awful. So
exactly.
with this, the only change that you need to do is to change your sorry. If you're querying this for by your own, you are gonna need to know which perspectives you need to play. But if you are using it on presentation, I didn't need to change anything on the front end for this, because we are taking care of that, and the only thing that you are seeing is a change on the request that we are doing. So in this case, it's saying, give me the Polish perspective, but if I change it here, this is bringing the perspective that I want with the changes applied in the way that we want.
Yeah.
So
And I think like it's interesting when you're showing this network panel and like the API requests, because like, this is very important. You have like built an amazing UI together with like our designers and so on, and like gotten that into the studio and it just works. But it's what it does is actually just sending API requests to the content lake in our backend, and everyone can use those APIs to do similar things, like programmatically, like and stuff like that. And that's what I like about this
yeah,
this product that we're making. Is like APIs are also like a first class citizen, and we're not keeping them to ourselves necessarily. Sometimes we do, but most times we don't.
exactly. We are opening the APIs for this, and it's like the first steps when we were working on the front end is like, okay, we need to fake this because we don't have the APIs ready. But once the content lake APIs were ready, we were moving really fast with all of this, because they built it in the right way. Like they really thought about this, and we have the right primitives just to keep building on top of this.
An example of that, like, is really kind of like a small thing, but for some maybe not. Like for this to work, we used to have like 1,000 document limit. Like you can only have 1,000 drafts in your data set, and we have to remove this to make this work. So now there's no limit as far as I know, right? And again, like this should scale to a lot of documents and so on. But yeah, this was great. I know that a lot of people will look forward to this. It's in private beta. And it's in private beta because we really want to test this thoroughly with like some select enterprise customers who have like these scalable needs kind of before we release it on to kind of like everyone. It's probably on a growth plan and up. This is going to be available because it's like a collaboration feature. But yeah, thank you so much for the demo, Pedro.
Yeah, thank
and
you,
for the
Pedro.
work.